Hello, everyone. Welcome to our latest and greatest episode of Code Live with Google Cloud, the databases season. I am very excited to be here. It's bittersweet, but it's good to see things through. I'm here with my teammate Lewis, and
Hello.
today we're going to be talking about data warehouses. So, Lewis, how much? I'm a bit of a tourist when it comes to data warehouses. Worked with them a bit, never implemented one myself. How familiar are you with the concept?
Not very familiar. So my background is in security, and I can probably do a better job of securing a database, but I haven't really worked with one. I touch BigQuery a little bit, and that's as close as I get to data warehousing. I just know it contains a ton of data. It provides value somehow, but I don't know how to set them up. So that's what we're here to do today.
Very fair, very cool. As an app dev, I feel like I'm going to learn a lot. Hopefully, the audience feels the same. And be sure, if you have any questions, ideas as we go, feel free to shout them out. Lewis has a bit of a game plan on how we're going to go. I'm going to let him walk us through that and then just take us away.
Yeah, so my approach today is going to be almost like a speed run challenge or beat the clock. So there is a website called cloudskillsboost.google. I'll share my screen right here. And right now I'm just sharing this one tab, but in a few minutes I'll share two tabs. The focus is going to be trying to understand what a data warehouse is and then try to implement one in this challenge lab. So a lot of our Cloud Skills Boost labs typically give you step-by-step instructions on how to do something as a form of training. In this case, by the time you finish the training, you're presented with a challenge scenario. And for the challenge scenario, you are to effectively demonstrate your skill set, demonstrate what you've learned in the course. What's tricky here is that I haven't done the actual course. So I'm going to come into this challenge scenario. I'm going to try to accomplish 4 tasks in 90 minutes. I don't know what the tasks are. And I've used BigQuery a little bit, but yeah, I think it's going to be quite the adventure to see what we can do and what we're presented with over the course of the stream.
Yeah, very cool. I do enjoy a cloud skill boost. I think that there's a lot of value in there because I'm the kind of person who learns by kind of getting my hands on something and doing something to the point where I feel like I could carry it off and take it to my own project. So
Yeah,
this feels like the right mix of like reference docs and hands-on work. So I'm excited. Let's get to it.
cool. All right, so I'm just going to start the lab itself,
The clock
and
starts now.
that's right. And I'm going to share my full screen. So instead of just sharing the tab, I'll stop sharing for a second, move our video stream. So that's why I'm looking over to the side.
Mhm.
Share screen, and I'm going to share this built-in display. So if we, let's see, okay, add to stage. There we
Yeah.
go. So at this point, let's start off with the actual challenge scenario. You're part of an international public health organization tasked with developing a machine learning model to predict the daily case count for countries during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Do you want to
Aaron,
zoom this in a bit?
yes. Should I do one more?
Maybe full screen,
Sure.
just for the mobile viewers. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So, little
Yeah, you can
spoiler on task one.
Mhm.
But Aaron, I did not expect to actually touch on anything machine learning related today. I just thought I picked a data warehouse scenario. So,
Hey, that's the world we're living in. Everything is becoming machine learning related, so it's good training.
yeah, definitely. So now I'm working with a junior member of the data science team, and they want me to use my data warehousing skills to develop a table containing the features for the machine learning model.
Mhm.
Okay, I know a little bit about AI, not much about machine learning, not anything about data warehousing. So
Okay,
that's how we're starting.
challenge
Um,
indeed.
that's right. So the starting point is the Oxford Policy Tracker in a public data set containing details of different actions. I have to create a data set. So that's one clue. And create a date partition version of the policy tracker table in my data set.
Okay.
And then I have some clues here. So I just start a new incognito window.
Hmm. And I have played a little bit before with these public data sets, especially it might have actually been with BigQuery. I was playing with the Titanic data set and trying to just pull insights out. Found them pretty useful. I found whichever like studio viewer I was using to be, low friction, easy way to get started, just start manipulating the data set. So hopefully we have a similar experience here. And I wonder if there's actually a code assistant for generating queries as we go here. That could save us a little bit of time.
So I know there is
Okay.
as a feature, but I haven't necessarily used it in a Cloud Skills Boost. And I think we might have to go without the query assistant because I don't want to go outside of the bounds of this lab. And it might not even let me go there, actually.
That's fair. We'll see.
So how are we on screen size over on this cloud,
I
Google
think since
Cloud?
that's the focus, we can make that a little bit like more of the screen percentage and zoom in a bit.
Sure,
Yeah. Maybe one more level. I like to go at least one more than I think is necessary because then I know mobile audiences are good. So yeah,
definitely.
that looks good.
Cool. All right. And then I'll zoom out here. And the reason I'm just keeping the skills boost on the side is just as a quick reminder of what I need to do
Mhm.
and to check my progress. So I want to make sure that I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
do like the direction here. Of course, still feel free to chime in the comments if you have a question or something. We can, go over it in more detail because we're here to learn together. So we'll make
That's
this
right.
work.
And I will need help because I've never done this before. So expect a lot of checking of documentation, a lot of just Googling, searching. I will need all the help I can get. So
Perfect.
please
Yeah,
share your comments.
we're here for you.
Okay,
Okay.
so first task is to create a new data set. I think COVID means we're supposed to name it COVID. So
Sure.
I'll go with that. Oh, and there is already something called COVID data.
Awesome.
And then consolidate COVID tracker data, Oxford policy tracker. Okay, I think I'm just supposed to create a new data set.
Yeah. Let's go with that.
Name that COVID. And we have to kind of stay in tune with what the lab expects. So I may copy and paste some names like this here
That makes
for
sense.
later use. Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna have instructions that rely on those names, so that makes sense.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so create a new data set, and then I'm going to work on tables after that. So I think I could just leave everything as a default value.
Yeah.
Create this data set. And then within that data set, I know how to create a table. Oops, that stays there. And then the table is Oxford Policy Tracker.
Okay.
And then,
It says with an expiry of 1,080 days.
right, so that
Yep,
must
thanks.
be somewhere in here. Partition by ingestion time.
Mm, let's see.
Yeah, it's going to be time to,
This may be something that we manage after creating the table, but
oh,
just to make sure that we aren't missing a simple setting as we go. Why not?
okay.
Schema. No, and I don't see like a details tab anywhere here. So I'm gonna say, especially with no data in the table, it seems like something we could edit later on, the expiry of the data once we add it. So
Okay.
maybe we just, yeah.
And what do you think about this partitioning by date? Because we can partition by ingestion time. And I think all of these are dates, I guess year, month, hour, day. What do you think?
Yeah, partition by date. I would say I don't think. Yeah, I think any of those would. Well, is the partitioning in the dropdown? Is there like a date option?
Up here? No.
No, it's just ingestion time. Maybe by day.
Let's do by day.
Yeah.
Okay. And the table should use the schema defined for the Oxford Policy Tracker table.
So there was a schema like rocker switch or toggle above. Set edit
Yes.
as text. Yeah, I don't know if we want to type in our own. Oh, it's using the table Oxford Policy Tracker. Will it inherit the schema from there? Maybe.
Let's see. Let me copy this link. It would be really unfortunate if we had to do this manually.
That would be. But I'm expecting that there is a straightforward way to do it.
All right, so let's see if we can get some information about this.
Replicas.
What can I copy if I copy this? Oh,
Oh, wow. You can create that seems like a good way to go.
yeah, this seems better, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So you can go into the schema. You can go into you're in the schema?
I'm just in the actual data set. So I'm copying the data set. It's going to include all the data, I assume, but I think that really helps me with the schema.
Yeah. No, that seems like a helpful way to go about it.
Okay.
Well,
So
that's already one thing I'm learning.
yeah, I think though, because if I copy this table, I can't select my current data set.
Oh.
Yeah, so let me just cancel this.
Yeah, probably because we're mid creation there. So yeah, I think creating from that view makes sense.
And then I'll refresh this page because really what I'd like to do is make sure that I can copy this data set or copy this table into the existing data set named COVID. And that way I don't have to recreate anything.
Right.
So data set. Okay, so that is not an option. I think I'll have to create a new data set, but because it's relying on the names that we already have or that are specified in the lab, I'll have to actually delete this and hopefully I can rename a data set.
I believe that would work. If not, we can get something similar and keep that change in mind.
Yeah. Make sure all the issues, project not found.
Oh, it says project ID not found. So if we change project ID, is that the same one? There we go.
Yes. So the project ID was BigQuery public data. I didn't know that all of these public data sets were in public
one shared project. Sometimes we do that. Like there are some things like the build packs, for example, are all kind of hosted by one public project. So yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I've got the right project ID. I hope that data set ID works.
Looks good to me.
Okay.
So we have COVID data in your project. Scheduled. Okay.
Scheduled to run every 24 hours starting now.
Interesting.
Yeah. They named it COVID data though, but I just wanted it to be COVID.
Yeah, I think you just entered COVID.
Yeah. I'll see if typos. So just COVID.
Or maybe it's inferring it from something below. Interesting. Data set already exists. Well, yeah, you did just make it. So maybe the data set ID isn't what it was showing there.
Right. It must have been, and I just lost it now. It must have been the data set name, which I think could be different from the data set ID.
It may generate that and force it to be unique.
Right.
And I wonder if the resource is still there, but we lost it in the context of this panel. So maybe a refresh.
Yeah.
That does happen from time to time.
Is there a data set over here named it's COVID data? It's already
COVID
here.
data. I believe that's the one. Let's just check the details of that.
Yeah, I'll just refresh it in case anything else needs to pop up. Since I made some changes since we were last here. Oh yeah, COVID.
There it is. So it is named COVID.
It's named COVID. And there's a separate one named COVID data, which I think was, it was created, I think a few minutes before, probably when we created the project.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So I think I'll have to delete this again because it doesn't pop up here. Like it exists, but it's not here.
Do we need it to pop up there though? Because we already have the data set copied into this new resource.
I never finished the copy operation. I never clicked the copy button down here.
Okay, then maybe we do. Take 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the time when you know, administrating a cloud platform as big as this, a lot of operations have to be eventually consistent.
Yes.
But I'm glad that in this case, the deletes seem to be happening near instantly. Um,
Yeah, because truly um, that it's very fast for you to delete a resource and then be able to go ahead and create a resource with the same name. Like usually that creates conflicts in a prior life I had.
it can happen.
Yeah. All right, copy the data set.
Excellent.
Um, so we're going to come back here, refresh this. We have COVID and we
Okay.
have the Oxford Policy Tracker.
Excellent. Good.
Okay, and then one of the points you had earlier was that maybe we can change this expiry date of 1,080 days after we created the table.
Yeah. Because yeah, I wonder if maybe if you edit details, you can change the expiry date. I guess that's of the entire data set. Like it seems to be copying every 24 hours. Enable table expiration. Yeah.
Oh, up here. Okay.
1080. Perfect.
Time travel window. It seems like everything should just stay fine. Initially use the schema and then populate the table with the data from the source table for all countries and exclude these countries.
Yep. Okay. Fair enough. And 1080 days is interesting. I guess that's like 3 years.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
I don't. Yeah. I'm wondering what the significance of that is, and also the significance of excluding these three countries. But I guess it'll come out in the material as we go.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the progress is. I think, yeah, we haven't done step 2.
Okay. Yeah. So we need to exclude the UK, Brazil, Canada, US. Perfect. Um,
How do I delete? Oh, data canvas. I like data
yeah.
canvas.
Discover,
Enable.
transform. Cool.
Oh, this is forcing us to go ahead and join Gemini.
Um,
I'm going to leave it and not mess around with it because um, I've had instances where I went outside of the bounds of the lab and other things break.
mm,
Yes.
eh,
So
that is fair. I think it would be okay to try some Gemini stuff, but maybe that did say pre-GA trusted tester program sign up. So yeah, like that may be fine to leave that out. So
I
if we
think
want,
what an alternative, if you're open to it, is going on gemini.google.com only because of the boundaries of this lab
sure,
and still using Gemini elsewhere to help us out here.
we could absolutely try that.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I'm thinking that we'll just be kind of generating a query here. There may also be a way to do this inside of BigQuery Studio, but I like the idea of trying Gemini's response in a separate tab.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to make sure that I can, and I'm actually going to use a different account and
Yeah, absolutely fair. As far as I'm trying to just think of like this is one of the use cases that I like for generating code because I find that whenever I'm generating a decent sized ETL query, um, especially with like a particular language, like a DDL language,
Mhm.
like say Oracle, I forget all the aggregate functions. I forget all of the kind of nice features of the language, and so I need to end up searching for it or having it generated for me.
Yeah, I find the same thing to be very useful, and I think I'm just going to try to rely on Gemini for building the queries.
Yeah, let's see what
So
we do.
yeah, and I'll start off. Let me zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start off by just saying I'm using Google Cloud and BigQuery in particular. I have a a big query table. And let me just grab the schema. Oh, this is quite a large schema.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to copy it, copy the resource ID
mhm.
so that I can say it's named Oxford Policy Tracker. And I want to delete the following region codes.
Okay, you want to delete them.
Yes, because it says you've been instructed to exclude the UK, Brazil, Canada, and the United States.
mhm. I think we can, yeah, but I think like deleting is one way. I think we could also do a series of rights where we're excluding those region codes. But as long as we don't need to rely on the data set after this update, deleting should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just worry about having a side effect during this operation. But I mean,
So
yeah,
what? Well, let's go with your recommendation. So, what
yeah.
would I?
Let's ask Gemini to exclude, like, we want to copy over all data from the public BigQuery dataset, except for where the region code equals the three that we're not interested in.
Right. Equals.
It's interesting that these are alpha3 underscore code, but hey, we'll see.
Yeah, I think if we look at the preview, it's a column name as well.
Oh, I guess that's just a standard that I wasn't aware of. The 3-letter country codes, I guess, are called alpha3.
Yeah, but I think it's good to explain that to Gemini as well.
Sure. And I feel like this is an interesting test to see, because I can see something like BigQuery Studio having the context to be able to make like a very strong response for this. If it can pull out the schema from the public data set to provide a good response, I will be impressed. If not,
Yeah.
it should give us something colorable anyways, like just knowing how BigQuery structures queries should give us something that's, like, aside from variable names, usable. So
Right.
let's see how this goes.
Okay. So this is kind of a long prompt, but just as a quick aside, we basically have to give Gemini all of the context necessary for it to give us a useful response. So effectively, it needs to know that we're in Google Cloud and we're using BigQuery, the name of the table that we're operating in, the operations we want to do, and then, of course, the way the columns are structured and the values they're in. So hopefully that's enough context for it to give us a response that would actually work.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. So it gave us create or replace table. Interesting. And then I'm assuming it's passing that into values. Okay, select.
Right. So it's selecting everything where the alpha3 code is not in. I like this.
That
The
seems
way.
useful.
Yeah.
I'd say we drop it in the Query Studio and see what it thinks.
Let's do it. So Query Studio. And you know what? Actually, I think this should actually help. I should ask it to help me in a different way.
Sure.
So I want it to basically replace all of the values. So please recreate that same query, but add that as my project ID. So see these, if I'd given it these values, it would have hopefully generated the response with all of that already created, but that's
Right.
okay.
Yeah, that's fair. You didn't know your project ID, your data set ID.
Yeah. And, surely this is not, so it's just COVID. It's not too difficult to do that, but at the same time, I do enjoy asking Gemini to do things for me, especially where there's a chance I could add an errant space or add a different character that's going to totally mess up my results.
That's fair. And it seems like it's trying to copy the data directly from the BigQuery public data set.
Oh,
So
good
that's fair.
call.
I think that makes sense. I'm assuming permissions would be fine for that. And I don't think it really matters since we just copied this over and there's no significant change in our version. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, let's see how that goes because this COVID data here, so there's a COVID data set here,
Yeah.
but then of course we saw elsewhere that there's this government response public data,
Mhm.
and we didn't tell it anything about that. So it's actually amazing that it knew where that public data set lived.
It really does seem to know about the public data sets that are out there for BigQuery. So that is interesting.
Yeah, that's really unexpected.
Huh.
All right, so let's run through this. And let me make more space on screen.
Yeah, let's see how this goes.
The statement replaced the table.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, this does look. Can we search for Canada?
Yeah, let's. I guess I can just use the same thing.
Yeah, select star. You could just use the bottom half of it where.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Yeah, where. Well, actually, no, you'd want to replace it with the not the public data set, and then.
So, what's my table name again?
I think you should be able to copy ID from the left bar. Or you may not need to specify, well, COVID.Oxford policy tractor, I guess.
This one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, check for
And then-
spaces, all right.
I would
And then-
remove not on line 3, and then we're good to go. And we should get an empty data set.
Nice.
Perfect.
Wow.
Looks like we did it.
That was good. Yeah, I would have deleted it and potentially ruined something. So thank you.
No worries. Yeah. That's why we love pairing.
Yeah.
All right. One task down.
Yeah. Let's click on that. So there is basically a correct table in the data set by following the lab instructions. Sometimes this does take a while. And I assume on the back end, it has some eventual consistency parameters where I bet there's a delay because the project that we're working in has to generate the logs. The Cloud Skills Boost has to acknowledge the log, parse through them, find the one that matches, then update the progress. So
I can
I'm
see
going
it.
to say
Stranger
probably
things have absolutely happened. I do have one thing to check though. I'm noticing that your profile pictures are different between the tabs. Are we logged into the same Cloud Skill Boost? Like, is it looking at the right project? I wonder.
it is. So it's looking at this project ID or this project ID. The reason it's different is because I'm logging in with a different Google Cloud account because it's a quick lab.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Good. Glad we checked.
But no, that's yeah, it's always a good call to check that. All right, so step 2, we want to add the mobility record data.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it requires to extract average values for the 6 component fields that comprise the mobility record data from the mobility report table in the Google COVID-19 mobility public data set.
Yeah, I'm noticing I'm squinting a little bit. Maybe we can zoom in on that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So I think what I'll do is just make these bigger.
Yeah, while we're reading the task.
Right, absolutely. And I'll just do, okay. Task 2.
Looks good to me.
Okay, so just to repeat, we need to add a mobility record data. It requires us to extract average values for the 6 component fields that are in this mobility report table. But it seems like there's a coworker who gave us a SQL snippet that's currently being used to analyze the trends in mobility data.
Mm-hmm.
So this might be part of the query that would add the daily count data. Okay.
I have definitely been there where you're handed something and you're like, it was working when I last touched it. So let's use that as a starting point. This is very real world training.
Yeah, really. But I I know it's fairly simple, but I will always say, please add comments somewhere.
Fair.
All
Yeah,
right.
especially with having a
So,
low touch like that. And here
yeah.
we are with the aggregate functions. We're getting averages in.
Yep.
Doesn't look like we get a lot more fancy than that, so that's good. Not a lot of
No.
local dialects to pick up, but
Yeah, no, we're just compiling averages and storing them in new columns.
yeah, okay.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
So let's see. But it's pulling it from the public data set. Oh, because it's the
Yeah,
mobility report.
that's fair. So, what are we being asked to do with this? I think I interrupted you while we were reading the task.
I think I'm still a little confused. So we need to add this record data.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So this says it requires you to extract average values for the 6 component fields from that table.
Yep.
This, for a second, this just feels like taking a certification exam in the
Mm,
sense that you need to read every word very carefully
right. Yeah.
and put the pieces together before you truly understand.
Which those are
Um,
also very worth your time if you're listening at home.
Definitely. Yeah, because as we can see, like it's not confusing if you take the time to read it. It's
Hmm.
confusing when you rush through it. Um,
Absolutely.
and with that, right, we have this piece of information that I gather. Whoops. So this piece here of information that I think is what our coworker did. That's the SQL snippet. Um, it's compiling average values, and there's 6 fields. So that looks about right to me.
Hmm.
So all we need to do is add that, make sure that the results of this query are added onto our COVID data or
Yeah,
COVID table.
that makes sense. There's nothing else in the task below. I see a note. I see point one. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Just add these 6 fields. Okay, so yeah, we should be able to see if these fields come back in the result set, and if they do, then we're
Yeah.
just doing, I believe, an alter to add 6 columns.
Yep. Okay. So just verified that this actually works. So thank you, coworker. And then should I ask Jeff? I don't know how to do an
Let's
alter.
let's go
So
ahead. I don't know what the syntax would be either. So yeah,
okay.
let's go ahead. Actually, yeah,
Did you have a
I do wonder if there is a tool inside of the BigQuery Studio that we're playing around in to do it. Because when I worked with Spanner a couple weeks ago, there
yeah,
was the feature to be able to do that right in the editor. I don't
right.
know if that's also in this editor or if it's a different window um, product or like.
So yeah, I do know it's in the state of Canvas.
Ah,
So
right. It's yeah.
yeah,
You did you explained that. Okay, but that's like a different view. Okay, that makes sense.
it
Let's continue
requires a
on.
yeah. And you know what? Maybe we just try this out then.
We could. We can
Yeah.
see how it goes.
Required APIs Gemini for Google Cloud.
I do like this view of having all the APIs you need to enable right in line. Or you may not be able to work in the resources in the regions you have for your project with this new product.
That's interesting. It's interesting just because I am very familiar with that org policy.
Yeah.
And it just restricts the regions you can deploy resources into. However, I didn't think that a Quick Labs would have that sort of restriction in
Yeah,
the first place.
that is interesting. And if you hit next, it just doesn't let you continue.
I think the grant permissions, you list comment separated values. So yeah, let's just grab this from our username here.
Yeah.
Go back to this Gemini page, and that's our user.
Let's just yeah, we'll see how far it goes. If
Totally.
this is
I hope that this actually comes about because I do really love this data canvas feature.
yeah,
Maybe I'll just reload the page.
yeah. And worst case, we could always stick with our existing window or existing, Gemini and separate
Yeah,
window. And
this is very promising. Oh,
that's okay.
it must be running globally and therefore violating the work policy somehow.
Right. Yeah, it is. I never quite have in mind which services are regional and which ones are global.
Right. I
But
think Gemini might be global.
mhm.
I'm not sure.
Anyways, we had a system going. Gemini, separate window.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Well, the great thing is that a lot of our Gemini models in Google Cloud. So if it had worked, then we use like this Gemini chat.
We could do that too.
Yeah. But in effect, it's using the same underlying models anyway. So um, let's see. So we want to alter this query, right?
Yeah. We want to alter that table. Is it the COVID-19 data table?
I think it's just the COVID-19 table.
Right. And then we want to add 6 columns provided by this query.
COVID. I don't like this autocorrect.
That's fair. Yeah, I do. Whenever I'm trying to ask queries like this, the way I think about it is I'm trying to parameterize my question, where I'm
Yes.
saying, assume I have a table named COVID, and I want to add whatever's past, whatever comes out of this query. So it's up to the model to evaluate the output, to, syntactically write around the variable names that I'm giving it. And even if it doesn't get it right exactly, I find it's easier to correct those kinds of questions.
Right.
It's just, yeah, it's a bit of a change in how you approach things. It's similar to how, everybody kind of learned to write questions that will be interpreted better by search engines. I find that there's a similar learning curve for writing prompts, not all the way to prompt engineering, but just like being a user of a prompt as an app dev.
That's completely right. I find that I almost have to kind of consider the prompt the same way I would think about speaking to a person and the way I would give the person enough context to actually help me out.
That is fair.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, in a search, you might just put data set, copy table, or something like that.
Mhm.
But if you want AI to be useful, you're going to have to give it a lot more than that.
Yes, I find that more detail, being specific with your question, goes a long way. Mhm.
So I want to add the columns from the following query.
Yeah, no, that feels very conversational.
So as that loads, I just told it I have a data set named COVID. It has a table named Oxford Policy Tracker, and I want to add the columns from the following query. And I did not supply the query.
We didn't.
Oh, hey, it's still pretty useful.
Yeah, it says just put the subquery here. It structures it as an inner join. Interesting.
Oh, wow.
Um,
I'm just going to ask, like, would you change your suggestion if I've already built this query?
yeah, or you could do that. Yeah, like, or even like replace the subquery with this.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it would work as an inner join. It lets you supply variables to the outer query. I'm really going back to my like days building reports for
Yeah.
banks. But yeah, I think that would work. I don't know if that's how I would approach it, depending on the language I'm in, I guess. But yeah, interesting. I do find it much easier to just ask a chatbot in my window rather than having to go and search for it. So
Yeah.
this is one of my favorite features of having Gemini right in the console.
Yeah, I really love that too. And I just love that, I could have just asked it continuously, almost in a conversational way, but I really want to remind it um,
Yeah.
that my prompt, my original request, I'll say, was the following, so that it knows, hey, I forgot to give you some information. This is the information I forgot to give you, and now uh, I want you to recreate your response based on this added information. So
Mhm.
it still likes the inner join.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, it does seem like it seems like a reasonable structure for the inner join.
Yeah. And you know what? Let me I'll minimize the chat and then just add it here so that we can see this.
Yeah. So let me just read that real quick. So we're defining table one, table two, selecting everything from table one, and then just the 6 tables that we're worried about from table two, which is the same as selecting everything, but that works fine. And then, yeah, defining T1 and then having the inner join where we define T2 at the bottom, I assume,
Right.
and naming the variables the same way. That seems valid to me. Country underscore region, is that a real field though?
I don't think, oh yeah, here it is, country underscore region. But oh, it's not in T1.
That's fair. Is it though? Let's just look at the data set, I guess, the original one.
Yeah, Oxford Policy Tracker. So it's considering that as T1, which is so country name. Oh, I guess not.
No.
It's the
Even if
Alpha
we,
3 code, I think.
um,
Country region.
I mean, yeah, I think I don't know if we need, like that bottom statement might not be necessary at all. It seems to be trying to match on T1. So it needs to match on something,
Right.
but not necessarily on that. Actually, I don't think it has to match on anything. I think we can drop that whole on statement as T2. I think that'll be a valid ending.
Okay.
That's my,
Oh, as T2.
yeah.
There we go. Oh no, inner join must have an immediately on or using clause.
On clause. Okay, well then we'll have to match on something else. I don't believe that they have anything in common though, because this subquery is just the 6 aggregate fields.
Right.
And I guess that's the trouble of using an inner join here when one of them is not really a table. Yeah.
I think I'll just see if this works, but I'll replace this country region because maybe Gemini hallucinated a bit and thought that this Oxford Policy Tracker also contained a field called country region.
I think it did.
So it looks like the appropriate name would be something like country name instead.
Yeah. Yeah, let's try that. T1 country name, T2 country region, assuming that the values are the same.
Right. The statement replaced the table. Okay. Let's go back to the table.
Were we supposed to replace the the table that we were working with?
I don't know.
I don't know if that was part of the task actually, but now that you mention it, we definitely did that.
I think we're making our own lab at this point.
Absolutely, and that's what we come here for, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's also why I really like the quick lab kind of environment, because for something like this, right, at the end of the hour and a half allocation, it's going to tear this down, and then I can restart, a few minutes afterward.
That's fair.
The other good thing, though, in regular labs that are just teaching you something and not challenging you in this kind of format, is that you can effectively go follow the steps, recreate it in your own Google Cloud account, keep everything, and now you have like a bit of a personal project or some kind of infrastructure to facilitate a further goal
Right.
that remains with you and is usable, and it's backed with some kind of Google guidance, right? We created this after all.
Yeah, that is a useful. It feels like a kind learning environment for you to say
Yes.
it doesn't have to stick with me, but it can if I want it to.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
I think we are on a good path because we wanted to add those fields to the existing table. So as long as those columns are here now, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, and that was a series of average columns, right? So I think did it add them at the end
It
or
totally
yes?
did. Perfect, and
Look at that!
they look reasonable.
Wow.
Those certainly are integers. I, yeah,
100.0.
yeah.
All right.
All right,
So,
perfect.
um, all right. Hopefully we can verify this task.
I guess not integers, but yeah.
All right. Well, I think we did something wrong, but either way, I think we're correct. So I'm just going to keep going because uh, this is all working. Um,
Yeah, well,
and
we have the populated columns, so yeah,
right. That I think maybe there was an errant variable somewhere or character because that's enough to trip it up because it's looking for an exact value.
right.
But clearly it's working. So and I'm having fun.
Yeah, no, I feel like I've already learned a couple useful things.
Yeah. So task 3, and just to basically have this as full screen. There we
Hmm.
go. Query missing data in population and country area columns. So find the countries which do not have population data and countries that do not have country area information. Okay.
That feels that feels very approachable.
Yeah, that seems straightforward.
Hmm.
Feel a little suspicious, but I'll keep reading on.
Yeah.
Um, so in the data set named COVID data, there's one table named Oxford Policy Tracker Worldwide. Run a query to find the missing countries in the population and country area data from that table. It should list the countries that do not have population data and countries that don't have country area information ordered by country. Oh, that's a little twist right there.
That's fair.
Yeah. And if
Uh,
a country has neither, it must appear twice. Makes sense.
Makes sense to me. That feels so it feels like not all of the instructions are bolded here, and that is like a reasonable level of a curveball. Like we have to make sure that um, in our query we remember to order by or ask Gemini to order by. Other than that, seems reasonable. If
Yeah.
country neither has population or country area, it must appear twice. So that to me suggests an outer join. It gives us a hint as to which join we should use.
Oh,
Because you want it to be, if it appears on either table, you want it to appear in the resulting set, which I believe is an outer join. We could ask Gemini if that's true.
right. Okay. See, I didn't know about that. Again, not a data person at all. So,
Yeah, and especially on the database season, we have learned from some seasoned experts. I would say I have like a good level of experience for an app dev,
right.
not a database expert, but I can get through the types of joins for sure.
Well, I just like that it's giving you flashbacks to did you say you were building reports?
Doing a lot of reporting work for banks. Yep, that
Thanks.
it gives you a working knowledge of the ins and outs of these joins.
I started my career like that, but I didn't manipulate any databases. It was a lot of spreadsheet work, though. All right, so okay, so I think you suggested we asked Gemini whether uh, whether this should be an outer join, right?
Yes, we
Okay.
can we can ask if we want a row to appear twice in the resulting data set, which join should we use? That's how I would phrase it. I guess we don't always want it to appear twice. We want it to appear twice if it, yeah, okay.
Right. Okay, so a left outer join or a right outer join. Okay.
Yeah. So this is an unconditional appearing twice. Um, so we want to say if it appears twice, if it appears in both tables, we want it to appear twice. Yeah.
So should I just ask Gemini?
Yeah, I think ask
Proceed.
Gemini like one more time
Right.
If we want a row to appear twice, if it appears in both tables in the resulting data set, yeah, the rest of that makes sense.
Okay. Oh, an important note too, a caution about inner joins and outer joins.
A full outer join.
It returns all rows from both tables. That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
What's your gut telling you?
I think we try it, and I think if we get a wrong result, it'll be easy to evaluate, and that's
Right.
another use case where like using AI generated code. Like if I feel like I can at least evaluate it visually at a reasonable pace. If it's a right or wrong answer, I'm comfortable using it. If I have to compile and like possibly start multiple machines to get a feel that
Right.
it's a right or wrong answer, I'm probably not going to do it.
Right. Okay. So let's ask it. Let's see. A full outer join. Help me craft a full outer join to achieve the following. So I think this is written in such a way where we can use a lot of this to feed to Gemini.
I think so. And honestly, it is pretty.
We can just use this, I think.
It's pretty well laid out. Yeah, it's kind of already
Right.
parameterized.
All right.
And we'll see if it comes up with a full outer join on its own.
Well, I did
Oh.
keep the part where I asked it to help
You
me
did
craft
prime it.
join. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But what we can do is still say something like, I thought a full outer join would be the best option here, but give me your perspective.
Yeah, we could ask that. And yeah, I feel like as long as it seems like a friendly data set, I don't think there's going to be duplicates in either column that would make it more complicated. So,
Right.
So it did use a full outer join. Not a big deal to switch that out if we need to.
Right. And so in this case, so we don't have any errors unlike last time. So maybe we just run this.
Yeah, so this is just a query, like it's just a request, it's just a select. We're not writing anything, are we?
No. Well, there's this union all, but select from where, full outer join. Yeah, I think we're good.
Yep. So let me just sanity check it. So we're selecting the relevant columns from both tables, and then in a subquery, we are selecting the country name, and we are getting the policy tracker worldwide where the population is null, and policy tracker worldwide if we scroll down a bit where the area is null. So that seems like a valid union. I do wonder if we have to do a full outer join on this as a subtable. That seems like an extra step to me, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. All right, let's run that. And okay. Oh, that's good. So
That
there's
is
no country name and no country area.
So we're looking for results where either country name or population was null, right? And if it's both are null, we want it to appear twice.
Right. But we have missing countries in the population and country area data. So I think those are the two columns, but it should be ordered by the country name. So that's where that comes in.
Did we have the order by in the query? I believe we did at the end.
I think so. Yes, there it is.
Yeah. Okay.
This was actually pretty helpful because I almost kind of minimized this to check the full query, but it's already here. So
yeah, that side panel is nice.
Yeah. So just at a cursory glance, I mean, there's 90,000 approximate results, but this looks fairly accurate. This looks like what we need.
It does look pretty good. I wonder if we can. I guess I see examples of Malaysia, Uzbekistan repeated, so there's a chance that it's properly duplicating the responses.
Right.
And we only have a few columns, right?
Yeah.
Are any of the like it might be all of the country names because it's sorting by T1 country name, and whether if nulls are counted as first, like ascending or descending.
Right.
If you click on the country name filter, will it put the non-null fields on top? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it does have rows where both the country name is null and where it's populated, because it's only ordering by T1 country name. I think if I was
Yes.
to make an improvement to this, I may order by the country name on both of the subtables before doing the join.
Oh,
But
interesting.
I don't know if that's actually what the lab would have expected.
Well, so since you've worked on stuff like this before, I actually have a question because what I'm seeing here can be confusing in the sense that it wasn't fully obvious to me that country name came from T1
Mhm.
and country name 2 came from T2. Like, if you were to um, save the results, export it as a CSV or something, and send it to someone,
Mhm.
they wouldn't know where each row came from, like
No.
the table that it came from. So the question then being, would you rename the columns in any way to help keep track of where those came from?
Exactly. That is exactly what I do. I always try to go back to business logic when I'm building something like this as an app dev. So say I'm trying to report on like, the trade values between two countries. I'm trying to say like, receiving country, like exporting and importing country. I want to assign some business value to the variables that I'm working with, because
Right,
that makes it less confusing all the way down. Because as soon as you get to the app layer, you're going to be putting it into an object that has those business logic terms attached to it.
right. Okay.
So, and it may
Yeah.
just be because we're working on an example here that it kind of blurs together.
hmm Yeah, yeah. And I mean, Gemini is doing what we asked it to do, and it's proving to be successful.
Yeah,
But that was just a little thing where I was like, oh, I need to go check the query again to remind myself where country name came from and where country name 2 came from.
absolutely. No, it does get confusing. That is the thing about working on these for a long time. It's a good question because I feel like even in a data set that I'm familiar with, my eyes will just start to kind of glaze over
Right.
after looking at the same variables for too long. So yeah, no, I think. What do you think? Do you think we've accomplished this task?
I definitely think so. So yeah, this is just a note, but yeah, it looks like it did what we asked it to do.
Yeah, we're seeing those with null population, null country area, seeing duplicates. It seems credible to me. Yeah.
Cool.
For
So
90,000 records, that was a pretty quick response too.
that was,
Uh,
yeah, I
what
mean,
did that take like 5 seconds?
yeah, I think job information. I think 1 second.
1 second. I have
How is that
gotten coffee.
possible?
I have gone for coffee on much smaller data sets, so that is
Right.
that that's a pretty good response time. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. Uh, cool. I think, yeah, Gemini may have been the 5 second one.
Mm. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Honestly.
Now we're creating a new table for our country population data.
Yeah, interesting. That's a
Wow,
doozy of a. That's exactly how I like to name a table, though. I want the verbose. Maybe that's a Java dev thing. I want the verbose table names. The whole thing should be explained once I get through reading the sentence of a name.
yeah. I mean, you just touched on like a pet peeve I have because my language of choice is also Java,
Yeah.
and I really like variable names that are descriptive, and I
Yes.
know exactly what's going on. I remember like in college, we'd get like templates where there's either the pseudocode or part of the code, and then we have to finish it. And it was always like T1 dot whatever and
Mhm.
E2. And I'm like, what are these variables? Like
I
I
have.
would always have to rewrite them
Yeah.
to make it readable, from which point then I can continue and actually do the assignment.
I absolutely had the same experience in university. I don't know if the audience can relate, but I have felt the pain of that like academic pseudocode. Um, you know. All right.
Cool. So I think so create a copy of that table from this public data set. And then we want to Does that make sense? You need to create a copy of this table
Mhm.
from this data set into your data set. Okay, so just copy, like copy and paste it.
Yeah, we need to have a copy of this table
Right.
from the European, so a different public data set,
Yes.
into our data set. Okay,
Right.
fair enough.
Okay, so the table is going to be named Pop Data 2019 within the data set named as COVID data. Oh, that's where COVID data comes in. That's a different data set.
Oh,
And so the table should use the schema defined for that table. So I think at this rate, we can ask Gemini to help us with this because it's essentially the task that we started out with, right?
yes.
We did it manually in task one. I think at this point, we can ask Gemini to help us out in task four. So we don't
Yep.
have to delete a data set about 3 times before we get it to work.
That sounds fair to me. We've already learned that lesson once, and
Yeah.
yeah, now we're already here in the studio, so it seems reasonable. Yeah, let's go for it.
Cool. So I'm just going to take it one step at a time and ask Gemini to help me with this portion of it
Mhm.
so that we can verify that the actual command looks good. And then, oh, that did not copy properly. Because I think if we ask it to do all of it, we might get somewhat of a long query. And I just want to have like a quick little snippet to verify and be
I'd say that is a best practice to break up your questions into small, like the steps that you'd want to take. So you want to keep it short and actionable while giving as much detail as you need to get it done. So I think
right.
that's a good call.
Oh, so we have results already.
Yeah. Okay, so
So
it says
just for readability purposes, I'm going to paste the query here.
good call. So that is our proper project name. Hold on. Did it infer our proper project name from the chat history? Because we didn't.
It didn't infer it, actually. It knows it now. That's one of I keep track with some of this stuff. So a few months ago, Gemini wasn't able to read things like your project name.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
now, yeah, you can, and I guess at this point, but you can just say like, what is my project ID? And if we didn't have this history, it would still pull up the actual relevant value.
That is
So
impressive. Because yeah, I remember last season we tried this out and it didn't have that. So okay,
yeah,
you can actually see the progress very
yeah,
much live. Interesting. No,
yeah,
very
it's
good.
very exciting stuff, especially when you ask it to craft like a G-Cloud command
Yeah,
for the CLI, and instead of just saying like, here's a bunch of stuff and this variable, your project ID, please replace it. Now it fully populates it.
that is nifty. All right. And
Cool.
that query looks reasonable. It looks empty, but
It-
not
yeah,
not empty. I guess it's just succinct. You're creating or replacing the table.
yeah, but we do have an access denied error.
It might just
Uh,
be because of the variable name there, actually, because it doesn't have the entire thing in backticks, and I feel like
oh,
it probably should.
yeah, I think you're right.
Assuming that's a public data set that actually exists.
Oh, access denied.
So let's go and verify that public data set from the task, and then see if we have something.
Yeah. So from this task?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of COVID-19s in that that data set name. So maybe we just click through and see what it says. Okay, yeah, it's a little bit. I was expecting it to be a little bit shorter. It might have doubled up the COVID-19s as like one of the prefixes.
Yeah, so what we have here is actually, is this my old query? The one we're no.
Empty.
Yeah,
Um,
let me just do this. Hello, paste. There we go. Okay, so now we have the error, and now I think this helps changing tabs. They're right here instead of
yeah, instead of across windows, sure.
yeah.
And so if we copy the dataset ID there on the other tab, I believe it gives us all of the project ID identifiers that we need.
I think so.
Yeah, we can just replace line 3 and we'd be all right. That's a lot shorter, but that does look right. So not found. Okay, so it doesn't know about. Maybe it does need the project in front of it.
Well, actually, this is in a different
Yeah,
project.
it would be the free BQ COVID project, or maybe the project ID that you had before was right, and we just want to replace the So we have
Yeah, I think that's right.
yeah.
So let me just see. The user does not have permission to query that, or perhaps it does not exist. No, it does exist.
I'm wondering if because there's a dot in the middle there. ECDC.
Right.
Oh, it might have just reversed ECDC and COVID-19 there.
Yeah.
It's almost the same.
It's loading. There we go.
Now it's
Nice.
just one of those little syntactic, like language syntax mix-ups.
Totally.
Okay, create a new table.
Go to table.
But I still find the required attention to detail to kind of debug a response from Gemini like this to be a much lighter lift, especially when I'm doing a whole bunch of tasks, than having to pick up the query language for the database I'm using with, and then drop it when I don't use it for the next 6 months. So yeah, still feels like a win.
Yeah, totally. And when you find things like that, I always like to just tell it, in this case, it's pretty simple. We just had to replace it.
Mhm.
But I'll tell it, hey, you got this wrong. This is the actual syntax.
Yeah,
Because, we might ask it to work from that same data set again. So we don't want it to create that same bug again.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
So we are in this tab now. And I think we just did task 1 of 2.
Mhm.
Have to add the country population data as well.
Yeah, and so we've already done that trick. We have added a column from a different subquery in the past, so we can grab that column from that other public table and write an alter.
So now I confuse myself a bit because we're in 2 different windows. So let's just start clean here.
Fair enough.
Leave that one. There we go.
Refresh twice, cut once,
Yeah. Okay, so actually, I'm just, typically I would say let's give it more context, but I just want to see if it actually
See how close it
remembers
gets.
from the prior tab.
You do have to limit tests sometimes,
Right.
And how are we doing for time on the Code Lab window? The quick 24 minutes left, and we're on the last subtask.
Yes.
So it's feeling pretty well in hand. I'm just going to go ahead and jinx us right there. But
all right. So, see, this is a different response. Oh, actually, no, it's not. It does have the join here. I was afraid that it would not give us the actual query, but it did this time.
No, yeah, it seems like it did pretty much what we'd want to do.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's okay. Create a replace table. Yeah, I want to take a closer look at that.
Yeah, help you out here. There we go.
Now, that doesn't look right to me. It looks like we're rewriting the table with far fewer fields, right?
Yeah.
But if we look at the first query that it had,
this one up here.
Yeah. Well, that's just the
I
join.
think it's the same one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just the join. Well, let's check with
it's not.
Adjust column names. I don't see it adding the new column though.
Yeah, no. So I think it's time to give it more context. It was
I may
good.
be mistaken though. How many fields were on the original table here before we started adding this population data column? Maybe it was just a four column table. I didn't take a close look at it after we generated the last query.
It didn't either. What does this have though? I mean, this has quite a few columns.
It's got more than that, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Let me take a look at that query again, the new one. Maybe if we undo to the full one, create a replace table, pop data. I think this is creating a new table actually, because COVID pop data is different, right?
So oh wait, COVID pop data. Wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is. I think it did explain in the response that hey, this is an option you could maybe we do just coach it and say no, we don't want to create a new table. We want to add this to an existing table. But thank you. That option does make sense, but not in this case.
Yeah. We don't want to do that. Instead, we want to use the existing, what is this, pop data 2019 table.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go check the task, add the country population data. And augment the existing table with the country population data.
And when it says the country population data, is there a specific column it's referring to? Maybe we could pass that as context as well. If we click into the
From
data.
this, from this table data, right?
Yeah, but is it every column in the table, or is there one that's called like population data?
Yeah, let's see. Well, I think it was this table, wasn't it?
I think you're right. Let's see those rows.
I just blanked. Here we go. For public data.
ECDC.
There's a table.
Oh, it's all the rows. Or no, pop data 2019 is a row. I guess yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe did we make a mistake? No, this is still a data set. Or sorry, this is still a table.
Mm-hmm.
But for a second, I thought that we went ahead and just grabbed a column and made it.
No, I don't think we could have edited that public data set. So,
right.
Yeah, I think we just go ahead and add the pop data 2019 table because our current table doesn't have that, does it?
Our current table. No, this is our current table. Because it's in our.
Yeah.
Maybe the prior query was wrong. The first one.
Let me take a look at the schema.
It looks the same.
We may have already added the pop. We might have done both steps in one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
I think the last step was to just copy a few of the rows, but we copied all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's see actually then, because we wanted to get that copy into our data set. So we want to create this table, which we have within the data set named as COVID data. So is this in the COVID data set? Yes.
It is.
Okay, that's good. And it should use the same schema. Good. And then we want to add. So I think what happened was, this is just supposed to set up the overall infrastructure, if you will, right? So grab the table, put it in the existing data set, and use the same schema, but don't fill in the table with the actual data. And that would have been step 2. But
if we query that column is populated, right? Maybe that's what it meant. No, it's populated, yeah. It's the same value.
It's the same. Oh wait, no, not repeatedly across the board. This is the same country.
Oh, it's per country, yeah.
So that would make sense.
It is just our. I think we just bit off more than we'd intended with the first query and kind of
Yeah,
got both the subtasks done at once. Okay.
I think Gemini just, yeah,
It's one
it
step ahead
did
of
it
us.
for us. Yeah, that's cool. Wow, it
All right.
saved us. I mean, we were confused, but if I think if we read everything carefully, like the Gemini generated query, I think we would have been pleasantly surprised and finished much earlier,
Yeah.
saved
Save
some
a few minutes.
time. But that's
But
a
fair
nice
enough.
surprise. Still, we
I
don't have
guess,
to do
yeah,
anything else.
the lesson there is like make sure that you understand the data sets you're working with as well as you can before writing your own queries. I guess that
Yes.
could have saved us a few minutes, but hey, we learned a lot about how expansive Gemini's responses can be. Um, I feel like this has been a successful journey through data warehouses and BigQuery.
Yeah.
How are you feeling so far?
I feel great. I think this went better than I expected. I certainly didn't expect that Gemini would be available in this lab. So that was, surprise number one.
Hmm.
And then I think I feel much more comfortable with manipulating data in a database. I
Mhm.
didn't I didn't think I'd reach that point by the end of this. I honestly thought time would run out and the project would disappear in thin air. So
Yeah.
I'm certainly very happy about how this all went.
I think that's a lot of the value of, it makes it much easier to go from the 0 to 1 of knowing what you want to do roughly, but not knowing exactly how to do it. That is really being smoothed down
Yes.
by these sorts of tools, especially when it's like Gemini built into the same window as what you're doing. Saves me a ton of effort. Um,
Yeah. And I almost forgot that we started with Gemini.google.com, so outside of the cloud console.
mhm.
But it became so seamless to have it all together that I completely forgot we started off in a different window to begin with.
Yeah, it really did feel like a very similar experience. Yeah, okay. Unless we have any questions from the audience, I think we're gonna start the process of saying goodbye for the season. Lewis, thank you so much for joining us for the season,
Of course.
especially in our finale. And actually, we do have somebody who's come by to send us off. Um, Mark, do you want to come on stage here?
Hello. Ooh, I'm a little dark. Let's not just in humor, but also in also in how I look.
Yeah, you.
We can brighten that up a little. But nice to see you again.
Yeah, very nice to see you, and it's good to have you come. Thanks for coming back. To end us off the way we kicked it off.
Well,
It's been
thanks for having me yet again.
Yeah, it's been another fun season. I'm glad we brought friends this time. You may be seeing more seasons with more faces in the near
Yes.
future. I really enjoyed the process of bringing more of our teammates on, getting more topics out in the public. Like Lewis just taught me about how things have changed from season 1 to season 2. Where remember when we tried in season 1, asking if it had the project ID in the
Oh
Gemini
yeah,
chat?
yeah.
It didn't work for us, but
Didn't
now
work
it
for us
does.
then. Yeah. Oh, now it does. Oh, that's
Now it
fantastic.
does.
So, sort of seeing that gradual improvement in the Gemini integration. I'm guessing either both the sidebar panel as well as like in the IDE as the editor as well.
It was just the sidebar panel that we did, but
Okay.
that's kind of more impressive for me because we've seen some spooky responses from the IDE, but this is new. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. Aaron, what's been your favorite moment so far across this season?
There are a lot of good ones. I honestly really like seeing the progression of the project, like of Gemini. So it might be one that just happened here with Lewis, but also in the last episode where I was with Luke, there was an interaction where we were midway through authenticating, like setting up a request for Firebase.
Okay.
It was like the real-time database, I believe, or no, it was data store, and we had the project set up, but we hadn't enabled, like we hadn't done an actual write yet, and it
Okay.
asked us which project we're talking about and gave us the authorization, and it hung for 50,000 milliseconds waiting for us to interact on IDX to finish that request. And so I was like,
anti-IDX stuff. Okay, that's cool.
It barely asked us for any config. It just said like, go ahead and do it. We'll ask you the questions when you need to. It felt very like developer focused to me.
Obviously, I mean, I'm guessing the one you did with Lewis is also your favorite, given that he's right here.
Yes.
I may
You know
set you up
what,
for
though?
failure with that.
It's a several way tie.
I didn't know if you were gonna ask me, Mark, but my answer was gonna be anything with Luke. So it's actually very
There we go.
kind of topical that Aaron also chose Luke, because like anytime I see Luke, anytime he's deploying anything, and of course with JavaScript, I'm like, I need to watch this. This is gonna be great. So
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. No, that's fantastic. I mean, obviously, mine's Lewis because I like him more than you do, Aaron. That's just how that works.
Fair.
I know that.
That'd been fun.
I will say. Oh, do I pick mine? Because I think mine was great. Which was, if anyone else is going back through, which was a very beginner's, like I've never touched Spanner before. So like, how do I just do Cloud Run in Spanner and put some data in a database with a lot of terrible dog puns, which was good.
Yeah. Sorry, Jumper. I just wanted to ask. I'm wondering what language is that? Is that Turkish maybe?
Ooh.
I'm not sure. But
what did we just show on screen? We don't know.
yeah. You know what? In retrospect, that is a choice.
It'd be fine.
Yeah.
But I was going to say the one I did with Gleb, where we did LODB and basically plugging in a bunch of models and using a bunch of different models with LODB, was, what did he call it? Exploring AI models with SQL and LODB. Actually made me understand and actually really appreciate the abstraction of a database over like embeddings and over being able to query something like basically any model. Really, actually didn't actually matter what the model was, without having to do the code part. Because interestingly, the next one after that, which I did with Daryl, was we did similar things with MySQL, but he was trying to do very similar stuff using Python to generate embeddings, and like it was not fun.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so it seemed a little simpler.
I can relate to that, especially like having not done a ton of embeddings work, but having built like one rag demo for Next, like the moment when I got what the embeddings were offering to the use case, I was like, oh, this feels like when I first like started understanding the impact of like indexing on a regular relational databases queries, like how it makes it easier to do the straightforward thing that I was already doing. And it just, speeds up access time, makes it more deterministic. Like it took a very, AI academic concept and made it into a very usable app dev concept for me.
But yeah, that was fun. Also, I just enjoyed playing with Spanner. I enjoyed that during my session as well. Cool. What I was going to say is, as well, if anyone's watching the YouTube video, you want to see more of these, please put comments below. Let us know if there's particular topics of areas of technology within Google Cloud you want us to look at. Please definitely let us know in the comments, or drop comments now. Either now or later is totally fine.
Yeah. We're all available on socials as we're listing in our signatures here. So feel free.
There we go.
Hit us up. And
fantastic.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us, especially if you have joined us for multiple episodes this season. We have enjoyed learning in public with you. Your questions have been fantastic. And that's what we're all here for. We're all advocates because we like interacting with the community. So we hope you come back next season. Yeah, absolutely. Keep an eye on our socials and that kind of stuff. And we'll definitely put out some notices letting you know when we kick things off again. Yeah. All right. Does anybody else? No more final words? Fair enough. I'm done. All right. I think we'll just wave and dance off. Thank you all for coming. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll see you soon.